Save your money first. Don't just leave unless you know what the hell you're doing. Be curious and always be learning.
Want to scale up your business? Let Mark Cuban, the self-made billionaire, guide you through the do's and don'ts of entrepreneurship. His expert advice is packed with real-world strategies for success.
Whatever you're good at, try to be great at it. And if you're great at it, good things will happen.
Are the stories of the people who quit their job, started a company, and failed miserably and are now working at a job they hate. When you know that when you walk into a room, you know your shit better than anybody else in the room, that's when it's time to start a company. Then you can start to control your own destiny. When you find something you're good at, go for it. And I also always say it's not about passion. Everybody's got passion for something. Right? Don't follow your passions, follow your efforts. Because people say, I was passionate to play baseball. I was passionate to play basketball. It doesn't mean all of a sudden I was going to be good enough. But I found myself being really curious about business, being really curious about technology. And that curiosity is really what drove me. And I think, particularly if you're young today, curiosity is great. Always learning and trying to find new things and being curious about new things, because that's what leads you to that path. Trying to figure out in advance, that's hard because you don't know what you don't know. There's never been a company to exist that didn't have revenue. And so when you're getting started, the first thing to focus on is not raising money. That's the biggest mistake people make. 99.99% of businesses don't have to raise money, but you have to have customers. And so what I always suggest is whatever your service is, if you're mowing yards, if you're building widgets, whatever it is, go find customers. Because if you can find somebody who really likes what you're doing, they're gonna want the product, they'll support you.
Yeah, I've always been like a knowledge geek where it mostly tech, but it could be anything. Anything business related, technology related, marketing related, culture related. I want to try to stay on top of it. Steve Jobs had this one quote that really stuck with me. He said, "Everything's a remix."
My biggest regret was I wasn't as nice as I should have been. In my mind, I didn't suffer any fools, right? If I didn't think you were using common sense, then I would get annoyed. And no one liked to be around me when I was annoyed. And for me, it was just like faster, 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 faster. The train's speeding up. How fast can we go? That was a huge regret that I would do over again.
But the one thing in life that you can control is your effort. And that's 99% of the time. That's the difference between being successful and not being successful. Who worked a little bit harder? When you walk into a room to sell something or to be sold or to try to understand something or to deal with a problem with your kids or whatever it may be, education, who worked harder? Who worked harder at learning? That's typically going to be the person who has the advantage in the situation. Because we've all walked into situations where we weren't as prepared as we would have liked to be, or we thought we were and somebody knew more. That's the king. The one thing in life each and every person in this room can control from now to evermore is your effort.
You only have to be right one time. You don't have to figure it all out in advance. You can be wrong. You could pick the wrong career. You can pick the wrong job. You can pick the wrong spouse. You can pick the wrong whatever. But you get it right one time, you're set. But if you don't try, and if you don't go out there and try all those different things, you'll never get that one time.
What will be your best advice to those who are thinking of leaving their full-time jobs to become a full-time entrepreneur? Save your money first. Don't just leave unless you know what the hell you're doing. We hear all these stories about all these people who quit their jobs, started a company, and made all this money. What you don't hear are the stories of the people who quit their jobs, started a company, and failed miserably and are now working at a job they hate. Before you quit, be prepared, know what you're doing, save your money, have at least 6 months to live off if you can, and then maybe you're ready to start your business.
It really depends where you are in your life. When you're just getting started, you may not be a leader to anybody more than the two people who work for you, but it's still a responsibility. And I think as you gain more success, however you define that, being a leader becomes more and more important. How you define success becomes more and more important. What you're able to do and the impact you're able to have becomes more and more important. Where I am in my life at this point, it means trying to accomplish things that I dreamed about but was never in a position to try to accomplish or succeed at, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
If you want to be a millionaire, you can do it. But there's a couple things you have to be able to accomplish. Rule number one, find something you can be good at.
and then be great at it. Second, you have to know how to sell. Whatever it is you're good at, somebody's going to need that service, someone's going to need that whatever it is that you're creating, but you have to be able to sell because you don't want to be in a position where you're dependent on other people. Number 3, be curious and always be learning. Because the one thing that's certain about business is that it changes every single day. And then the 4th thing, when you have that knowledge, when you have that ability to sell, when you know that when you walk into a room, you know your shit better than anybody else in the room, that's when it's time to start a company. Then you can start to control your own destiny.
You know, and the fact that, like we were just talking, you created all these products and you want it to be organic, that's a business decision too. And then you have to learn by trial and error, right? You were curious about what might work. You know, obviously you're walking proof of what does work, right? And now you've got to be able to continue to make those decisions. Because in this business with all the margins on these products, everybody's coming at you all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they think they can do the exact same thing, but it's not that easy.
The third thing is you've got to realize that whatever you're doing, you're competing with somebody. What is it that gives you an advantage over your competition? And then the 4th thing is, what's your core competency? What are you good at? Whatever you're good at, try to be great at it. And if you're great at it, good things will happen. Why do most businesses fail? Number 1, sales. No business has ever succeeded without sales, period, end of story. Number 2, preparation. When you go to start a business, have you done all the homework to know about your industry, your competition, your products, the profitability, your customer base, their demographics? You need to know these things. 3, effort. It is not easy starting and running a business. It's hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And 4, brains. You got to be smart. You got to learn this stuff. You got to put in the effort. You have to be curious in order to be successful at business.
You know, for me, the more you learn, the more you know how to remix. And that's what this is all about. So, you know, how do you go from YouTube, which was the first platform for video that got big, to Instagram, to Snapchat, and know, okay, do I want to be on Discover? Do I want to be on Reels? Do I want to be on TikTok? You know, and if I do this, you know, how's YouTube going to treat me? And all the decisions you guys have got to make on a daily basis.
You know, what my dad taught me was, you know, talk to your 40-year-old self, your 50-year-old self, because we hit 40 and we think we're old. We hit 50 and you're going to think you're old. You're not. You know, he was adamant about the fact that today's the youngest you're going to be, and you got to live young and be young and act young and feel young. The young 40-year-old, the young 50-year-old, that's who needs to hear it. And I learned that from my dad, and that was the most impactful thing.
I'd be lying if I said, oh yeah, I knew I was going to be a billionaire, or I even thought it was possible. Never crossed my mind. I found whatever it took for me to motivate me. I would listen to motivational tapes. Or CDs. I would drive around looking at the big ass houses, thinking, what is that person doing that I'm not doing? What do I need to do to have a house like this? You know, because that's what motivated me. And for me, what really flipped the switch was I was never really into technology when I was a kid, but then as I got a job that used it, I found out I was good at it. And once I found out I was good at it, then it became a lot more fun. You know, when you're good at something, it's almost always fun. Right? And once it was fun, and I combined that with, you know, my business skills, then I saw, okay, I know how to make money at this stuff because I know how to sell. Now I know tech. That gives me something I love to do. And so, you know, what I tell people, the key is find something you love to do and be great at it. Because once you do that, it's all gravy.
5th thing is your customers own you. You don't own your business, your customers do. When your customers say jump, you don't just say how high, you ask for precisely the height, because, you know, they have to make the choice. And just, you know, everybody individually, you know the choices you make as a customer for different products and services, and use that as your guideline for, you know, what will be important to your customers.